You say, I'm not a historian, but I'm going to spend my time talking about history. I'm not a journalist, but I'm going to spend my time talking about this thing. I'm not an expert on this, but I'm going to spend my time talking about this thing. It's a weird move, yeah?
No.
You don't think?
No, I'm a free American. I can talk about what I like to. So I don't. So what is the point here?
So what's the solution? To not talk about it?
No, it's to have more experts around.
Well, the expert class hasn't done a great job.
I know.
Man. This is follow the science. Put my track record against any of the expert class on COVID, I'm glad to do that. So should I have just shut up?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? If you made it to that quick intro, I want to thank you. You're the 1% of the 1%. Joe Rogan hosted a debate between Douglas Murray, political commentator and author, and Dave Smith, comedian. I know, very odd. We're living in a crazy world right now, where they discussed a wide variety of topics, but one that I wanted to hone in on, the idea of listening to the experts.
But I don't think I've ever really claimed to be an expert. I have opinions on things.
I know, but
because I'm interested in these topics.
Yeah, I know, but isn't it weird to go around, for instance, let's get to the last year and a half. It's a bit weird to be simultaneously saying I'm not an expert on a conflict and talking about it everywhere.
I don't think so. Not really.
Whether we should be listening to only experts, not take any information from, just people that are interested in subject matter, that don't have a, expertise behind them, but have studied a topic for a long time. Are they a credible source of information? If you ask Douglas Murray, he says no.
And if these people are such experts in how you see a society go weird, they can look at what is happening to a portion of the right everywhere on this stuff. There is a portion of the right across the West that is playing this very dark game.
But I believe he is 100% wrong. His diagnosis of the situation basically boils down to trust experts. Experts are more right than anybody else. But as we can see, that there's been many times where experts have been 100% wrong, or they've been bought by, big pharma, or, big sugar, or all these corporations and businesses that seek to profit from the experts. So when the experts are giving their unbiased opinion, we a lot of times find out later on down the road that no, their opinion was very biased. And he tries to appeal to authority and say, no, you can't trust these comedians that are historians, and tries to give these awful takes. But I believe Douglas Murray is more captured than he thinks.
Fundamentally disagree with this idea which I really do think is quite anti-democratic in spirit and quite elitist, that there's an expert class. They can have opinions on all of these things. It's weird for any regular person who's just read about it.
Not my view.
It seems like what you're saying.
What ends up happening is Douglas Murray ends up refuting a lot of his own points, going back on things he had just previously said, saying, no, I don't believe that, even though he had just said, this is what I believe, and then suggests debates, but then doesn't want debates because debate me, bros. And what it really boils down to, if the way I'm seeing it, my perspective is when he says keywords like, oh, they're monetizing it, they're monetizing these views, they're clickbaiting. He's kind of giving this idea that these people are able to, generate interest and essentially views and capture the eyeballs of people when he's not able to do so. And it kind of comes off as really weaselly and jealous.
If there are experts out there who can smack all of this stuff down or just destroy every point that I make over the years or whatever, okay, so then do it. And then let's see.
Yeah, I know, but, well, that's a bit weird because also then it's like the debate me bro thing. But
you just criticized Daryl for not debating.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I know.
So let's go ahead and check out that portion of the debate or argument and give my takes and commentary along the way. But before any of that, over 98% of daily consumers to this channel have yet to subscribe. If you can do me the huge favor of hitting that sub button, I'd greatly appreciate it. And with that, let's get into it.
Come on. I mean, he is not the historian of our era.
He's not claiming to be.
This is the thing, Joe. This is like punching jelly.
This is when things really set off, and where Douglas kind of just falls into this pit of kind of going against every point that he makes. I think he's just so fed up, and we're only 40 minutes into the podcast and he just has a meltdown.
No, but you
It can
don't
always adapt.
consume.
It
But you
can
don't
adapt
consume his
around.
work.
What I'm saying, because I don't need to consume endless versions of a revisionist history. I understand.
But
I
it's
know where
not
this comes
revisionist
from.
history. If you listen to his work, it's not revisionist history. He's basing it on historical
But
work.
yeah, I know. But okay, so this is my point about jelly. It's a shape-shifting thing. Comedian or historian?
He's not a comedian.
Historian or podcast? Would-be historian or actual historian? You say he doesn't claim to be a historian, but he's pumping out tens of hours of
Well, neither
history.
does Dan Carlin. He doesn't claim to be a historian either.
You see my point about the move. It's like some weird jujitsu move.
No, I don't-
Where you say, hang on, you know all about this as well. You say, I'm not a historian, but I'm going to spend my time talking about history. I'm not a journalist, but I'm going to spend my time talking about this thing. I'm not an expert on this, but I'm going to spend my time.
My problem is who decides who's a journalist or who's a historian? Is it only based off of like a school degree? Is it only based off of, I mean, him himself is a political commentator. What gives him the right to be so? You know, is the only accolade that matters is whether you attended a, you know, university where you were fed propaganda?
Time talking about this thing. It's a weird move, yeah?
No.
You don't think?
No, I'm a free American. I can talk about
You
what I
can
like
talk
to.
about
So
what
I
you
don't. So
want.
what is the
I've
point?
Fundamentally, this is the issue: is that this man is from London. I believe he's from the UK. So they don't even believe in free speech. He doesn't even understand. He can't even grasp the concept of that Americans say and do whatever the fuck we want. We talk shit even if we don't know the subject matter, but that doesn't mean that we don't call people out if they are wrong or have no actual critical ideas on a topic. You know, people get cooked left and right when they are talking a bunch of shit about a topic they have no idea about. It's the marketplace of ideas.
Notice you can, but
So, but
we
what's
all
the
can.
point?
The point is, what are you pushing? What are you watering?
What am
Why?
I pushing?
Yes.
Liberty, free markets, peace, prosperity, not getting in another stupid catastrophic war, which we're on the precipice of right now. That's what I'm pushing.
What are we on the precipice of?
Well, I think weren't you just talking about it the other day? Everyone I hear on the inside says we're about to attack Iran. I think you just said something about that the other day. Am I wrong about that? I thought I saw in one of your interviews that you did.
Possibly.
No. Okay.
That doesn't
Says
mean
possibly,
we
doesn't even
are
fucking
on
know.
the verge of a war. I mean, you keep referring to we being in wars. There's a very big difference between a country having a military that's engaged and a country being at war. This country has not been at war for 25 years. You have not been fighting for the American homeland for 25 years.
Yes, we haven't. That's true.
Right.
We haven't had a war
Right.
on our shores. We've been picking on third world countries halfway around the world.
Well, you haven't been randomly picking on them. I mean, Afghanistan, you went.
I didn't say it
into-
was random.
Yeah, right. Okay, it wasn't like you.
This guy's putting words in
suddenly
his mouth.
decided to bomb again Myanmar or something. We went for Afghanistan to find Bin Laden and
That
take
happened
revenge for
way-
9/11 and
happened
stop
a long time ago.
an attack like that happening again on the
We stayed there for
American
25
homeland.
years almost.
That is very different from a country being at war.
Yeah, but
Having-
that's a
having-
total mischaracterization of the war in Afghanistan. It's one thing to say that might be an accurate characterization of the special operations
Yeah,
mission in late
exactly.
2001, but then
I'm
we
saying-
fought then
yes,
we fought a
because then you-
20-year regime
yes,
change war against the
because
Taliban.
you got dragged into the quicksand of war.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, fine. But
Fine.
I thought it wasn't a war. Like what
See, this is a problem. I feel like Douglas is not used to dealing with someone. The good thing about comedians, a lot of comedians are very kind of witty and kind of like listen. They really listen to when you have to do comedy. You have to the words matter, you know. So you have to be very selective. So they're very good at like picking apart what you're saying. And Douglas doesn't seem like he's used to that. Be like, no, you said we're not in war. Now we are in war. What the fuck are you talking about?
I don't get
No,
your
I said
argument.
it was a war. It's your use of we, as if you're personally like suffering this war. I mean,
Yeah,
you're a
yes,
taxpayer.
when I say we,
we're
it
taxpayers,
implied,
so we
okay.
pay for it. Okay, fine.
Douglas, would you
This is a taxpayer is the fact that Dave Smith or Americans are taxpayers in war is that our taxes pay for war is a microcosm. It is almost less important than the fact that parents are losing their sons, their daughters. Men are not coming back home to their families. But Douglas Murray's a homosexual man, so he'll never know what it's like to have a son enlist to defend his country and then die in the battlefield of war, in the fog of war, because he can't even grasp that, because he's obviously a homosexual, because he'll never have kids. He doesn't get why Dave Smith says we are suffering from war. Dave Smith is a father, so he understands what could potentially happen when war comes about. To Douglas Murray, this is just some people in a military, all fighting. But to Americans that are losing children, that are losing sons, daughters, husbands, wives, parents, it is a we thing. We see ourselves as a one. Americans have this way of seeing themselves as we are one. So Dave Smith is correct in saying we are dealing with these regime change wars, because those caskets that come empty to parents that will never see their children again are affected.
If I went back and corrected you on every time you've used the term "we" to refer to your government or something like that, like if I were to say, "Oh, we just imposed tariffs on China," would you point out that I didn't, and it was the Trump administration?
I'm saying you take it obviously very personally, and that's your right to do so, of course.
So
I'm
fucking
just trying to make sure
smug.
we're accurate.
What do you think
guy.
I'm taking personally?
The
arrogance of this fucking guy to not take
I think
war personally.
they've killed hundreds of thousands of people and cost my country $8 trillion and degraded my country very much.
And there's a very good argument to make on that. I'm still slightly bemused about this move from I'm an expert on this and I have views to I'm a comedian.
I've never claimed to be an expert on anything.
This is the problem, Joe. I mean, if
Like,
somebody said,
the wild thing is that Douglas Murray right now, he's like, I'm cooking. You see me cooking, Joe? And Joe's just like, you're off, kid. Like, you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. You are talking fucking nonsense and back and forth.
You have to claim to be an expert on something to have an opinion on something?
You don't have to be. You don't have to be. But
So what's
this is
the
like,
issue?
I'm not a historian, but I'm pumping out history.
But wait a minute,
I'm
what
not
about
an expert,
just-
but I'm talking all the time about
But
this
you're not
thing.
even talking about specifically on what he just said.
No, I'm saying this is my point about this. You say I'm not an expert.
So what's the solution? To not talk about it?
No, it's to have more experts around.
Bing, bing, bing. That's what he wants. He doesn't like the idea of regular people being able to challenge his ideas.
Well, the expert class hasn't done a great job.
I know.
Man. This
Exactly.
is follow the science.
Yeah, but you know what? I agree with that. I just said to you, I agree with that.
Right, I know.
But
so
one
Douglas,
of the problems
during
is,
all of
Fire
COVID,
away.
I will put my track record against any of the expert class on COVID. I'm glad to do that. So should I have just shut up? Should I have shut up by opposing lockdowns and opposing vaccine mandates and talking
that
about
was
the
the
lab leak
argument at the
theory?
time. You realize
that's the
that, right?
entire argument that you're making. Let the experts handle this.
No.
You're not an expert. You're right. I was just a comedian.
You're wildly not listening to what I'm saying.
I don't think it's wildly miscategorized.
I think you have
this
to
is
take,
exact
I think we
spot
should
on.
agree, perhaps. On
But he doesn't think that he's miscategorizing. He doesn't even, Dave doesn't know that Douglas's real issue with them talking about it is the fact that they're monetizing it, they're getting views, and he is not.
following that one major thing can break down in front of your eyes, or many major things. And it does not mean that every single one of the sewer gates should be lifted. Okay?
Yeah, I get that point.
I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Create amazing videos of the highest quality with artless
God
templates.
damn. I need to pay for that. I pay for everything else.
I'm saying this is the chatter on what is part of our side at the moment, is that a lot of the sewer gates are being lifted, sometimes by people who know that they're doing it, sometimes by people who don't, sometimes by people who say, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. But at the very least, there's some damn hygiene that should be required, isn't there?
Yeah, I'm not sure
Right.
exactly what you're asking, but sure.
Just that. Let's have a bit of hygiene on our own side, not lift every sewer gate.
And when you say
not
our own side,
let-
you mean the right wing broadly speaking?
Broadly speaking, and I'm sort of funny about libertarians. I'm never quite sure. I always think, I always say, I think libertarians are essentially the bisexuals of politics. They should just choose, Joe. They should choose. It's kind of, they just want everything at the buffet.
That's very funny.
Well, I think we want some things. I don't know. Okay, that's a weird way to put it, but
This guy's obviously fucking gay. I mean,
I get
see
your
your
point.
point.
obvious.
All right.
That's,
Well,
that's the only way he can put it, because he's like, let me see, how do I infuse like sex and debauchery into this by saying, "Oh, I got it. I'll say libertarians are bisexuals."
I mean, I don't know. Look, I mean, essentially, I just don't. Maybe there's something I'm missing here. But if your argument is that, like, you're saying I claim to be an expert, but then I have like a parachute to get out of it by being like, hey, I'm just a comedian who's just saying this.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever like really claimed to be an expert. I have opinions on things.
I know, but
because
if
I'm
you're
interested in
not-
these topics.
Yeah, I know, but isn't it weird to go around? For instance, I mean, let's get to the last year and a half.
If that's weird, then every fucking person on YouTube, Twitter, every platform is then wrong. This guy doesn't get that. It's like, it's a very American thing to, and maybe that's why it's hard for him to digest this idea that we get to set up a camera like I have, and I'm giving my opinion and saying, Douglas Murray, you're a fucking idiot. You know, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You might know these topics, but you don't understand people. You don't understand how people work. They don't want to listen to some fucking lame ass historian fucking talk like a fucking nerd for 20 minutes.
It's a bit weird to be simultaneously saying I'm not an expert on a conflict and talking about it everywhere.
I don't think so. Not really. I mean, I don't know. I don't think like
I don't know.
I don't see how you
Do
can't
you
have an
talk
opinion
about
on
these things?
Which things?
All these things that we're talking about.
Some of them, yeah.
Are you an expert
I am on some, yes.
on some?
But
But
you talk
not.
about some that
But
you're not
some
an
are
expert on.
You'll
Right,
notice
so
that I
what should you
didn't
do?
just.
What should you do if those subjects get breached?
Well, I think that you educate yourself as much as you
Shouldn't
can.
you say I'm not an expert and then give your opinion if you're
depends.
in the middle of a conversation?
I think it's, as I say, I think that it's a weird move to say, I'm not an expert on this, but I'm going to talk about it nonstop. I think that is strange.
Listen, I will certainly concede that
What
I am
is the
weird.
amount that you
so I'm
can
not
talk about a
disagreeing
subject
with you.
you're not
It's weird that I'm as
expert on.
obsessed with all this stuff as I am. I mean, like, okay, I'm a weird guy. I tell jokes at nightclubs and then get obsessed with politics and monetary policy and like, okay, fine. But I just like fundamentally disagree with this idea that, which I really do think is quite anti-democratic in spirit and quite elitist, that there's an expert class. They can have opinions on all of these things. It's weird for any regular person
No.
who's just read about it.
Not my view. Not my view.
Seems like that's
No,
what you're saying.
I conceded already. I said a long time ago that I believe
I mean, look at the bat theory that experts were touting about Wuhan. The lab leak theory was a racist idea. The lab leak theory was you're a racist if you think that. Now it's the predominant thought. We used to say fluoride in water, good. It's great. Now we're starting to see that's a terrible idea and that we should be removing fluoride from water. All these things that people were quote unquote experts on, you're finding out that they were experts in the sense that they had titles, but they were bought by X group, X lobbyist group, X, platform was like, hey, we'll give you 100,000 if you say, yeah, that sugar's not bad for you. Let's blame fats, And a lot of these so-called experts were bought and paid for. So it's kind of hard to trust them. And then when someone's bringing up, logical ideas, right now, if you asked, quote unquote, some experts, they'd say there's no difference between biological males and females. When the majority of the world can see, it's fucking apparent that there is a difference.
much of the expert class let itself and us all down very badly. And I think that happened in foreign policy in areas, not every area, but it happened in some areas. I think it happened with COVID in many areas. But that does not mean that it's just a free-for-all. No. There are some things we can still verify to be true and can still agree on as baseline levels of agreement in a free society. And yes,
yeah, of course,
everyone is free to air their views, but it does not mean that everyone who sounds off on an issue, whether it's World War II, the war in the Middle East, the war in Ukraine, has an equally valid point of view.
But who the
I
fuck
certainly
is saying
wouldn't
that?
argue. I mean,
This
that
guy's
to
crazy.
me is just batting down a straw man. I mean, I certainly wouldn't argue that everyone has an equally valid point of view, and I certainly wouldn't argue that there shouldn't be some standards of like who you would want to find interesting and talk to and who you wouldn't. But also, it's like, so let's have the conversation that like I don't know, like if there's if there is if there are experts out there who can smack all of this stuff down or just destroy every point that I make over the years or whatever, like, okay, so then do it, and then let's see.
Yeah, I know, but well, that's a bit weird because also then it's like the debate me bro thing. But
you just
I think
criticized Daryl for not
This
debating.
guy is fucking insane.
Yeah, I know. Let me just make the main point. I think
This guy's
what
been making the main point for like 15 minutes.
trying to get at, Joe,
and
is
no
that
one
it's a bit
understands
like
what the hell he's talking
Twitter
about.
algorithm thing, which is
But he is going to get to the main point now where he's just like, you know what? It's kind of sucks that some people are getting views and money and I'm not.
yes, everyone is and should be free to say what they like on Twitter,
But not
from
get money.
the very
But they better not
fringe
get views.
things of like
That's what he
immediate
wants to say.
incitement to violence and all that kind of
But
thing.
they should be censored.
But,
he really,
we all
what he
know that-
really wants is censorship and views. He wants people to be censored that don't agree with him or that aren't as credible, quote unquote, to him, not experts. And they should be censored because they're not experts. And he should be getting the money. He should be getting the views because he went to school. Some guy on YouTube, like me or whatever, or other people, shouldn't be getting money to give their opinions because they didn't go to school. I didn't go to no school. I didn't go to any school. I decided to start businesses. I wanted to make money. So that's what I did.
One of the oddities of Twitter, including since Elon took over, is that what you hope is a restored marketplace of ideas ends up pushing you really crazy shit.
Yes.
And that is what I'm suggesting is happening.
These people on Twitter are fucking adults, dude. If they can't discern a crazy, insane person posting like flat earth or what have you, if you don't have the ability to discern that, well, then, you know, that's tough. You know, there's a sucker born every single minute. You can't control that. But he would rather control, censor, and put up barriers for people because they're too dumb. I don't.
On a podcast level and maybe on a wider level beyond that. I get stuff on Twitter that I just do not want. I do not want a guy with 1,500 followers who's got some zany new view on something, who isn't an expert but is an expert, to be pushed at me. And effectively, what is
Don't
happening
listen
with
to
the
it,
Twitter
my God.
algorithm is
This guy's
happening
acting like
everywhere
Twitter's
else as well.
forcing it down his throat.
And
like he can't just
we're
mute
all for the
people.
open marketplace of ideas.
Doesn't seem
I want
like he
that.
is.
I thrive in it. But
You don't thrive in it. If you were, you
it is different
wouldn't be
once you get
bitching.
into the thing of, is something manipulating the algorithm behind? Is the algorithm being pushed on me? Why?
It's always the algorithm is being manipulated when I'm not. If he's not being watched, he's like, I'm not being watched. So someone's manipulating this goddamn algorithm.
Am I being given this? Why am I not being given that? Why am I being constantly pushed this view? And I think that the answer to a great degree is the same thing in your world as it is in the Twitter world, which is if you go straight online and you say, you know, JFK file drops, watch live stream of Kennedy historians reading the papers live, you're not going to get any views.
That sounds boring as fuck, though, bro. Like, do you know how headlines work? Do you know how, like, newspapers, you know how a headline, if you have a boring headline, I mean, look at YouTube and look at thumbnails and look at, you know, good titles. People look at a title and it sounds boring. They're obviously not going to click on that shit, bro. What the hell?
No one's going to watch it.
Yeah, it
But
sounds
that's
like shit,
what
bro.
Kind of what's needed is for the people who know the documents to go through the documents. But you and I know that if, as there was some guy who did immediately, you do something like live stream Mossad involvement in JFK, you're going to milk it. You're going to cream it online. The money comes in. I'm saying that there's
that's what he doesn't like, the money.
a similar algorithm in all of our lives that we're not as aware of as we should be. Which is that we, because we
This
all
guy's
know
arrogant.
This,
This
at
guy
some
thinks
level,
he's a fucking
but there
god.
are
He's like,
certain things
I'm smarter than
that,
everybody.
Get a bit of your base going, or get people going interesting and crazy, and then they start debating it and all that sort of thing. And that algorithm of online seems to me to be spilling into the real world.
I don't disagree that there's certainly more sensationalist stuff
I
will
don't
get
think
you
there
more
is.
clicks. I also don't think it's not really unique to social media or podcasting.
When printing presses were invented, folks, you know, they weren't printing that many books. What they were printing was pamphlets on how to determine if your neighbor was a witch. Like, this isn't a new propaganda and insane shit isn't new to the internet. We've been doing, anytime a new media, a new source comes out, like a new way to transfer information from one person to another, it has always been used for the most ludicrous reasons. This guy's like, well, we should be using it better. It's like, well, that's not how we are. We're not that.
I mean, this
No,
has been
believe
true.
me, I
in-
write for the tabloids. I
Yeah,
know
like
that.
right. This has always been true. Right? So
This guy's just mad that no one's
it's kind
listening
of
to him.
one of the problems
Yeah, I
of
don't think
humanity.
anybody's arguing against that. You know, it's certainly never my intention when I talk to someone to try to get more views. It sounds crazy, but I'm only talking to people that I'm interested in talking to. And in Daryl's case, it's because I've been a listener of his podcast for years.
Hey everybody, Peptide Buddy here. Today we're going to be talking about what I think is one of...
That's it. This is like genuinely how I pursue things. Well, that's why you're here.
Ooh.
I'm genuinely interested in your views as well.
Cook. Let him cook.
Even though you completely disagree with him. That's
Yeah, he's just like, damn, I think he's now realizing, like, damn, I fucking fucked up on this one.
And this is the marketplace of ideas in real time.
I agree. Although, as I say, I think you've massively underrepresented the pro-Ukraine argument.
My style, my opinions. You should be talking to more people like me. Oh, me specific. Can we get me for $200, Alex?
and the pro-Israel argument in the last 2 years.
I don't know. I mean,
all right, that's pretty much the clip that I wanted to discuss. It's about a 15 minutes of a 2-hour podcast where it just really showed, to me, that portion really highlighted the faults or the pitfalls that Douglas is not realizing he's falling into, where he thinks he's doing the righteous thing, the good thing, but he doesn't realize that he's coming off as very egocentric, saying, you know, they get the views, I don't. Their opinions are being promoted, mine aren't. So it's just like, yeah, debate them. And then when you ask him to debate, he's like, well, I don't want to debate because then I'll be a debate me, bro. It's like, well, then, bro, what do you want? Like, you don't want them to talk, but you don't want to debate them, and you don't want them to be platform. You don't want them to make money. It's just, he's asking for censorship, people. He wants money and he wants censorship. That's what he wants. But with that being said, hopefully you made it to the end of the video. I just wanted to share my opinions on this portion of the podcast. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, hit that notification bell so you never miss a clip. Till next time, later.